Welcome back to the Build Your Bankroll podcast. We were a sizzling 10-3 last week, prolific 3-1, Understudy 3-1, and Puck 4-1. Daddy made an effort but finished it 2-2. He couldn't keep up with the professionals. Today we're going to break down both NFL Conference Championship games, and we are happy to report our last episode had the most listeners by far, and we thank you again for your continued support and giving us a shot. Now, let's swing into the knowledge drop, and we're going to talk about props and team totals. Drop some knowledge on them, fellas.
All right, boys. I guess I'll lead off here. I get the honors this week for the knowledge drop after going 4-1 last week, so I get to rub it in your face a little bit, right?
Weak. Nah,
Easy,
it's a
easy
good
block.
performance. You had more picks, though.
Thank,
That's the only reason you win.
thank you. I'll take it. So we're talking here today about proposition bets or prop bets, as we like to shorten it, I guess, a little bit here. So proposition bet is essentially a gamble for something to occur or not occur inside a certain sporting event. It usually is unrelated to the final result or the final score. It can be anything that occurs during the sporting event. So, I mean, it could be literally all over the map. It could be points, rebounds, assists in the NBA or college basketball. For football, it could be rushing yards, passing yards, tackles, sacks. I mean, heck, even when we get into the Super Bowl here, you can bet on the coin flip. So there's a wide variety of things here. Just to give you some examples, just the other night, I was looking here, Joel Embiid in the NBA for the Philadelphia 76ers. He had a points, a rebounds, and an assist total at 59.5. So essentially, they were thinking that he was going to get 40 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists to hit the over. Anything below that would be the under. So you need to be aware of where these are located. Within sports books, they can be all over the place. Most times, though, you'll have to click on the game itself, and then they'll likely be on a tab above the game lines. There also could be a dedicated page as well, specifically to all props. So just be aware of where they're located. All of them, you can click on them. You can kind of poke around, see where they're at. Just kind of get familiar with where where those are located because they are pretty profitable. Keep this in mind here later. I will likely have a couple of prop bets later, and we can get into some of these things. So we'll talk about it. Obviously, you can hit us up. You can reach out to us on our Twitter. If you've got any questions, we're happy to take any one-off questions that you may have. Now, let's get into some of the team totals here with Prolific.
Yeah, I can't wait to bet the over/under on how long it's going to take them to sing the national anthem in the Super Bowl. So that's a prop I'm certainly looking forward to bet. So jumping into team totals, team total is essentially where you're taking the over or under on how many points a specific team is going to score. So for example, this weekend, you can take the Eagles to score over or under 23.5 points. And that's essentially it. If the Eagles score 24 and you took the over, you're a winner. If they don't get to that mark and you took the over, they're obviously a loser. So same thing for the team totals. They're a little bit tricky to find. Some have it right there on the main page where they show team totals. Others, you actually have to look through the different tabs and find the tab that says totals. And then it'll say Philly over under 23.5. The other thing here is that it's not just for the game. You can bet it for a quarter. In fact, the Understudy, one of his favorite plays is the first quarter under in a game,
Love
whether
it.
it hits
Slow
9.5,
starts.
7.5, what slow starts. That's right. So look for those different types of team totals, quarter totals, whatever it may be. But you can bet it for the game, for the quarter, for the half, whatever you want. So that's team totals. We're gonna jump into some of these here in our picks coming up for the conference championship games. But here we go. Let's get into it.
All right, fellas, let's start with the NFC Championship. San Francisco 49ers take on the Philadelphia Eagles. 49ers 13-4 on the season, Eagles 14-3. This one taking place at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We're anticipating 37 degrees. Current line, Philadelphia, favored by 2.5. The over-under sits at 46.5. Take it away, fellas.
All right, I'll go ahead and start on this game. We've got really two offenses here that protect the ball. They sustain drives. San Francisco, they're the number 3 offense in the league in terms of fewest turnovers. Philly, they're the number 5 offense in the league in terms of fewest turnovers. So neither team really turns the ball over. Puck, as you would say, tick tock. These teams they grind the ball, they extend drives, etc. San Francisco, number 1 defense in terms of total yards. Philly, the number 2 defense in terms of total yards. The Niners are allowing 16 points a game. Philly allowing 20 points a game. That's 36 points. We've got a total here of 46 and a half. So these defense would really have to melt down in order for this total to go over 46 and a half. The other thing, I heard this on the early edge today, and really interesting. The ref, John Hussey, he's 10-6 to the under. And this one was even more interesting, is that he's only called 1 roughing the passer penalty all season. So you've got a ref, the crew leans heavy to the under. We've got 2 of the best defenses in the league. So I'm you can tell where I'm going. I'm on the under 46 and a half in this game. There's a couple other things that I considered as I was thinking about this under, but San Francisco, its weakness is its pass defense. Not necessarily the short passes, but down the field passes, which is an area where Philly excels. Hurts is number 1 in passes completed over 25 yards this season. And San Francisco is in the bottom 5 in the league in terms of the number of 25-yard plus passes it's given up this season. I think they've got like the 20th ranked pass defense, but yet the number 1 overall defense. So you can tell they stuff the run big time. They do give up some in the past. I do think Hurts is going to exploit that a little bit, but I still don't think this is going to go over 46. Philly, their weakness is its rush defense. So I do think San Francisco is going to be able to exploit the run, but I think that really plays into our under. And that really helps the clock run, and that, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, I think both those guys are going to be healthy for the game and be able to participate. And we should be good there. Just looking at some trends over the last few games, San Francisco has went over in 4 of its last 6, but 3 of those teams were Seattle, Las Vegas, and Arizona. All 3 of those teams are bottom 10 in yards allowed in the league. So 3 terrible defenses. San Francisco lit them up for 30, 40 points. They were the main reason why the total went over. Philly's not going to let that happen. And then you've got Philly. They've been under in 4 of their last 5. So I think all of those things really point to the under. So that's my play on the game. I do have a couple props that I'm diving into. Dallas Goedert at under 45 and a half receiving yards. He went from one of the worst teams against tight ends last week in the Giants to now San Francisco, who's one of the best teams against tight ends. So San Francisco's got elite linebackers, elite safeties. Last week, Dalton Schultz from the Cowboys against the Niners, he was targeted 10 times. He turned those 10 targets into 5 catches and 27 yards. I think we're going to see something similar from Goddard. I don't expect a whole lot from him. So we're going under 45 and a half receiving yards there. And then my last prop, I don't have a play here, but this is something that we need to monitor. And it's the San Francisco running backs. So CMC, Christian McCaffrey, Debo, and then Elijah Mitchell. Philly's weakness is the rush defense. McCaffrey had to come in and out of the game a couple of times last week. Philly's defense is not the best against the rush, so I do think San Francisco is going to pound the rock. So I'm going to look at all 3 of these guys. I'm interested to see what their rushing total is. I may play all 3 of them, but watch for news. I know that McCaffrey didn't practice earlier this week. Mitchell didn't practice earlier this week, but I guarantee they're going to play. It's just a matter of where the number lands and how we feel. So right now, I'm leaning Mitchell, Elijah Mitchell. He's kind of my key focal point because I do think McCaffrey has he may get hurt. He just tends to kind of come in and out of games a little bit. So those are the three plays on my end. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I'll start with I'm with you on the under. I'll start there, right? 49ers, to your point earlier, they are only allowing 16.5 points per game. Eagles allowing 20.5. So you got a total of 37 there. I think this one still way under the total. Some interesting points to this. Brock Purdy, this is a guy that he has proven himself in his opportunities. I totally agree. The guy's, you can't say anything but great things. He only has 2 road starts. This is going to be a pressure cooker of a setting. Lincoln Financial Field, they don't mess around. Eagle fans are nuts to begin with. I anticipate some conservative nature from Brock. And I also think that what's kind of interesting too is that, the 49ers really haven't faced a true dual threat quarterback. Jalen Hurts is going to be on the move. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to try to at least test the 49ers defense. And, to Prolific's point with the triple-headed running back situation, I think there's going to be a lot of time on the ground. And this bodes very well for the under. So I am under 46.5 on this game for sure. Secondarily, the Eagles are probably the one team all year that I have trusted the most. So yes, this is probably more of a gut feeling, but I've gotten to watch them a ton this year. Everything about them tells me that they are the better team than the 49ers. I think, you put Jalen Hurts in a big time situation, the dude just doesn't lose. It's rare, like ever. So I trust Jalen Hurts, and as a minute as that handicap may be, you can't argue his stats all year. I mean, the guy has been an absolute stud. I don't think there is a position in which the 49ers don't cover a field goal. It's going to happen. I'm with the Eagles. Give me the Eagles -2.5. One last note. It is interesting that we have Philly. They're the best pass rush in the league. So I do think that that's another piece that will help with, causing some havoc in multiple ways. So give me Philadelphia -2.5.
Yeah, here's a wild thing. So Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy faced off against each other in college. It's been 4 years ago. I know that. Iowa State played Oklahoma, high scoring game, 42-41. I know it's not apples to apples here. I know this is college versus NFL, but Purdy's been in some big games, and Hurts has been on the same field as him. So I think he'll be at least a little bit comfortable. I do agree Philly fans can get a little bit wild. But I do want to ask you guys one question, though, from last week. What was your perspective of Brock Purdy overall? Like, just how do you think he played last week?
I think
I don't
for
think he
me,
played well. I think he was a little bit rattled. I think the Cowboys defense, certainly mixed things up and rattled him a little bit. You could tell he wasn't as comfortable as what he has been, playing defenses of Seattle, Las Vegas, and Arizona. Dallas is a big boy defense. Philly is a big boy defense. So I think I'm expecting to see similar results this week from Purdy that we saw last week. What do you think, Understudy?
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of unknown. I do think collectively, if you look at the entire year, generally speaking, he's kept his composure well. That's something that he has done. But you're right. Dallas was a test for him. I think Philadelphia is going to throw all kinds of things his way that he hasn't seen. So he's going to be in a lot of unfamiliar situations that will not be comfortable, and he's going to have to step up to the challenge. I think he's capable of doing it. But as I said earlier, I trust Philadelphia more than I trust San Francisco, and that's kind of where my thought is.
Nah, I agree with you. I'm glad I asked the question because ultimately, looking at his stats from last week, 19 of 29, he threw for 214 yards. And here we go. Talking about the knowledge drop earlier. Here's one of those prop plays. His over under for passing yards is currently at 219. Earlier in the week, I actually got it at 216. I took the over, but it is up to 219. As bad as he played last week, in my opinion, against Dallas, he still had 214 yards passing. Prolific, to your earlier point, McCaffrey, Debo, Mitchell, they've all got nagging injuries. They've all been sitting out. I think two of them actually sat out practice for multiple times this week. So I think Purdy's going to have to throw the pill all over the lot this week. So I'm actually going to be on this prop here. I have got it at 216. I still like it at 219. I think they're going to be down early. Philadelphia gets out to pretty commanding leads, on most occasions. So if Philly jumps out, they've got whatever it is, 7, 10, 14-point lead. Purdy's got to start throwing the pill. Now, here's my favorite piece of information that I've got for this week. Philadelphia Eagles have two coaches on their staff. Their defensive assistant and their assistant DB coach. They're Tyler Scudder and DK McDonald. They both were coaches at Iowa State when Purdy was there. So they practice against Purdy every single day. They know his tendencies. They know how he reacts to certain looks, makes adjustments. So I actually saw this on the NFL channel this morning on Good Morning Football, and they brought out this little tidbit. I think that could play a factor in, can they get into Purdy's head? Can they affect him? So look for that. I think there can be some gamesmanship there. What do you guys think about that?
Love that stat. Love that stat.
Where did this come from?
Yeah, exactly.
I had a little break. Turned the TV on, and it came popping up. So perfect timing.
All right. So since we're on Purdy, I'm going to just throw one other thing out here that we really haven't talked a lot about. The corners for the Eagles are studs. I mean, you're talking. You've got Slay and you've got Blankenship, the safety, Bradbury. That crew is tough to throw on, and they are going to make you grind. One prop that might be interesting, and I'd probably lean towards the player prop for Purdy for completions is at 19.5. I think he's going to have to work hard to get there. I think it's going to take him a long time. I would prefer the under on 19.5 completions. I don't think he's going to get there. He's going to have to work to a serious level and get past some amazing defenders. So since we're on the Purdy train here, I think that's going to be a tough one for him to achieve.
Yeah, I'm glad you got the number at 216, Puck. The Eagles defense is number one pass defense in the league. They only give up 179 passing yards a game. So I think it's going to be tough for Purdy to get to 216, 219, if that's where it's at now. So I'm glad you got 216. At 219, I would struggle taking that, but it's the market. It's what it does. Obviously people are on it because it's pushed up. So you got the right number. So I'm glad you got that in your pocket, but
he's going to be rattled
yeah.
Later, Purdy. Yeah. I'm not feeling it.
But he's got the composure though too. He seems like he's pretty steady.
He does. And you watch some of his videos. I mean, he's very faith-based, and you see some of those Tim Tebow qualities coming out, like these big moments don't rattle him. But if McCaffrey, Mitchell, and Debo are healthy and they can all run the rock, I think he's going to struggle to get to 216. But if he's got to put the team on his shoulders, and they might get behind too. If Philly hits a couple big plays early, and San Francisco gets behind, which I could totally see happening, he may be forced to try to keep up and throw the ball. So,
on a serious note, has Purdy faced two better corners than what he's going to see in Philadelphia?
No,
I don't think so either. I really don't.
He did play the Commanders, and he lit the Washington Commanders up, and they have a top 5 defense, and I think he dropped 30 points on them. But that was the one defense in his run that he played that had a serious. And I think Chase Young was in. So I mean, they had their studs, and he lit them up. So, and that's another NFC East team as well. So He absolutely has the capability to do it. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
One more thing that I want to keep eyes on. I don't know if I'm going to have an official play here, but if you guys saw last week during the game, AJ Brown kind of had a little hissy fit on the sideline with the coach. Showed a lot of frustration. I think he wanted the ball. So I think that the Eagles offense, they're going to make a really strong effort to get him the ball. I was just looking up earlier here as we were talking. He's got another prop here, currently sitting at 68.5 yards receiving. It could be, I mean, he could hit that on one play, as
One
you were
play.
saying earlier, Prolific.
Yeah.
He could hit it on one play and go deep. But I think that they're going to try to get him a few passes, get him into the game, get him involved. So, again, no play for me, but I do think that that's something to highly consider for bettors out there.
Yeah, that's not a bad angle because he can get edgy. I mean, even back in his Tennessee days, when he's fired up, I think he makes some more things happen. That's not a bad play at all. All right.
Yeah.
Any further comments before we move over to the AFC Championship?
Nope, just AJ Brown, not Tennessee, Ole Miss, but nice try, understudy.
No, the Titans.
Oh, Tennessee. I thought you were calling
Later,
college. I thought you were
later,
calling college.
Prolific. God, let's move on to the next. I've got no words for this guy. All right. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals facing the Kansas City Chiefs. This one at Arrowhead Stadium. We're anticipating 35 degrees. The current line, Kansas City is favored by 1. The over-under sitting at 47.5. The Bengals were 12-4 on the year. The Chiefs 14-3. What do we think, fellas?
Well, first
Yeah.
off,
Go ahead, Puck.
I just wanted to say you called out the weather report. That was one of the things I was going to touch on. We're going down to a low of 12 degrees that night with 10 to 15-mile-an-hour winds.
Dicey. Love
So the
that.
wind may play a factor here.
Yeah, and you got two teams obviously very comfortable in the cold. But anyways.
They are. But wind is a different thing. And one thing that I'll say is high ankle sprains, and this game all revolves around, is Patrick Mahomes healthy? And can he be Patrick Mahomes? My opinion is that high ankle sprains, they don't heal in a week. Um, your normal ankle sprain that you roll on the outside of your ankle, those will heal. You roll that, you jump right back in the game, and you're fine the next week. But high ankle sprains, they don't heal in a week. Whatever they did to him at halftime, and whatever he took, shots that he got, whatever, and got him back in the game, and he was able to finish. He did not look great in the second half of that game. He was hopping to hand off the ball to running backs. Um, you know, he finished the game, but he was hobbled. He lacked mobility. He didn't look great. Um, he's not much of a runner, but Mahomes is a magician in the pocket. He is one of the best quarterbacks at escaping pressure, and not escaping to run, but escaping to throw. And Sam Hubbard coming down on him, DJ Reader coming down on him. If he's hobbled in any way, I think he's really going to struggle to get out of their way. And I think Cincinnati gets several sacks in this game, and maybe he tweaks that ankle again and he can't continue. I cannot back the Chiefs in this game. I know it's at home. I know it's in Kansas City, but the Bengals are just absolutely red hot right now. Chiefs are too. I think they're 9-1 in their last 10, but Cincinnati's won 10 in a row. Mahomes, he is going to be hobbled. There's no way that he is 100% healthy for this game this weekend, and I think his value is the magician that he is in the pocket and how he can escape. I don't see him being able to do that this weekend, and so I think that's a huge edge to Cincinnati. And I just can't bet against Cincinnati right now. They're killing it. You guys know I'm a Browns fan. I hate the Bengals. But I don't see how they lose this game this weekend against Mahomes. So I'm taking Cincinnati on the money line. I'm going to wait as long as I can, because I think as information gets out about Mahomes' ankle and people say, oh, he's good to go, he's 100%, he's ready to roll, They can say all that they want, but I just don't think he's going to be there. So I'm going to wait until as close to kickoff probably as possible. Hopefully I get Cincinnati at plus 120, plus 130 on the money line. That's what I'm going to take. And then I do have. It's interesting. Both officials in the I got this on the early edge as well, but both officials are under officials. This official is 6-9-1 to the under. So 9 games to the under this year. And I just think Kansas City is going to lean heavier to the run with Mahomes having a bum ankle. And so I think this just screams under. So it's 47.5 right now. I'm leaning towards the under. It's not my primary play, but I am leaning that way. And then another play that I absolutely love. This is a prop. This is Samaje Perine over 15.5 receiving yards. He is the Bengals' second running back, but he does come in primarily on passing downs because he's a better blocker than Mixon. He had 5 catches for 31 yards last week. And Kansas City gives up the third most receiving yards to running backs in the league. So I think Samaje Perine, he's going to come in on those passing downs. He's not going to need to block. He's going to get out, get some catches. 15.5 isn't a whole lot. He's easily going to go over this. And so I'm on Perine over 15.5 receiving yards as well.
I'll touch on the high ankle sprain as well. There's nothing that anyone could tell me right now that tells me Patrick Mahomes is okay. I don't care what I hear from anyone. Bottom line, he's going to be limited. Scrambling's not going to happen. And yes, Andy Reid is brilliant, and he's going to come up with some kind of scheme to make things possible. But you have a limited Mahomes. You have dramatically changed the contour of the team. And I as well, I'm on the Bengals. I think the Chiefs are going to struggle to get out of the gates. Burrow is literally unfazed by anything. I mean, everybody talks about his swag and just kind of the way he carries himself, but this dude just nothing phases him ever. And I think he goes there again and beats the Chiefs. Burrow is undefeated against the Chiefs to the point the Bengals are calling their stadium not Arrowhead, but Burrowhead. Yeah, that's a little extreme. I agree, but that's what we're at. The Bengals are 7-3 on the road this season and have won their last 5 on the road. Everything for me is the Cincinnati Bengals. I would add in the Ohio factor here that they want to represent. You've got Sam Hubbard, obviously a sensational defensive end coming out of Archbishop Moeller in Cincinnati, and then, of course, Joe Burrow from Ohio as well. They want to represent. They want to take this thing down. And you can't tell me for a second that Sam Hubbard's not chomping at the bit to get to a Patrick Mahomes. Just end this thing and get it done with. So give me the Bengals. I think they win in every avenue of this game. So
I don't disagree with the result, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than you think. Yeah, we're talking Patrick Mahomes and all this, but no, how come nobody's talking about Chad Henne came in and 98-yard touchdown drive? I mean, he was solid. He was a great quarterback for that series there. And then, Mahomes came back in the second half and he did it. One thing that I think we should also call out is the Cincinnati offensive line. They've got 3 starters out, and part of that game, their center, he left. He got rolled up on the back of his leg, his knee. I mean, they were checking him out in the blue tent. So I'm sure he's going to be hobbled a little bit too. And don't forget who I brought up last week, Chris Jones, 15.5 sacks from the interior defensive line. He's going to be right over top of him.
Yep.
He is. He's going to be right over top of Karras, the center. So actually that kind of plays into one of my prop plays again here. I got this play on FanDuel. Chris Jones to record a sack. Yes. It's at minus 122. I think there's good value there, especially if you've got 3.5 linemen that are potentially out or hobbled. I think that's a great play. And then with Mahomes being hobbled or not hobbled, whatever, I've got Isaiah Pacheco over 47.5 rushing yards. He's at
Yep.
minus 110 there. I think they're going to give him the ball. I think they're going to try to let him run a little bit and get some comfort early on in the first and second downs. Pacheco has gone over that mark 9 out of the last 11 weeks. He had 95 yards last week against Jacksonville.
Puck
So
just
I'm
throwing
going
us
to play.
some steam. Those sound like a couple
Yeah,
That's it.
winners. I might have to jump on those. Those are good.
I was
Those are good.
I was looking at Pacheco as well. That prop stood out to me, and I actually played him last week.
Prolific.
And
Don't
he
try to
went
take credit
he
for
went for
this.
that number.
No, not
I'm
quite.
not
No.
at all. 'Cause I shied away from putting this on my list. But I love the fact that you did, Puck, and I'll 100% be tailing you, buddy.
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
Puck,
Yeah, we can get in
listen,
there.
man, those props, those are solid. Seriously, I might jump in on those. I liked them both, actually.
We can all play them. Let's all do a collab. We can do a 3-way collab here. Get in on those plays. The other one that I was thinking about doing here, I'm going to say it out here. So if I find a good number, I'll at least play it. But I'm thinking about a teaser here for both games. I'm looking at teasing Philadelphia from minus 2.5 to plus 3.5. And then I'm looking at Cincinnati from
No
plus
need there.
1.
No need. Philly takes this one.
They
Don't
may,
waste your
They
time.
may not.
Don't waste your
But
money.
I'm gonna secure it from Philly to minus 2.5 to plus 3.5, and Cincinnati from plus 1 to plus 8. You may want to get on that pretty quickly with the Cincinnati because this line's flip flopping quite a bit. It's
Yep.
going from 1, it's going up to 2, on either side. So depending on what book
I think you're better off from an odds perspective. I think you're better off playing the money line on Eagles.
For sure.
If you're hesitant at 2.5, rather than playing the tease, I would take Philly on the money line. Because if you're at a tease, you're at minus 120. What's Philly on the money line right now? Do you have it in front of you, Puck?
I've got one book at minus 148.
Yeah, so 148, you might be able to get them at 140. You're paying an extra 20 cents to get just one team just to win. So I don't mind going to 3.5 because you are playing through that key number of 3, which is the number one key number in football. But I would lean just the money line.
So you take both money lines in both games then?
Well, I'm not playing the spread in the Philly game, but if I was, I probably would be on Philly. I love the Niners. My emotion, my heart tells me to bet the Niners, but Philly
enough
at
of the
home,
drama.
Understudy. You talked a lot about how good they've been at home, and they have been the best NFC team this year. But the one thing, DVOA, Football Outsiders, San Francisco's number one in total DVOA, offensive DVOA, and defensive DVOA. So they're
impressive.
They're the cream of the crop in terms of that stat. And I don't put all my eggs in analytics. There's obviously other factors, but it's hard to argue against the number one team in the league and that stat. That's a pretty well respected stat.
So needless to say, we're going to scrap the tease here.
Yeah, teasers are out, but nice try. Thanks.
We need to drop the tease on a future knowledge drop. We need to tell folks what we're talking about in terms of a teaser.
Yeah, it's relevant and perfect when it's the right time, but unfortunately, Puck picked the wrong time.
All right, let's scrap it then. I'll just stay with the two props, Chris Jones and Isaiah Pacheco.
Your props overweighed everything. The props were excellent. I will say that for sure. Any final thoughts, fellas, on this one?
Nope, I don't think so. Let's jump into a recap for our listeners here, Understudy.
Here are picks for this week. Philly versus San Francisco. Prolific is on under 46.5. Dallas Goedert under 45.5 receiving yards. And he will be monitoring the San Francisco running back props to go over. He'll be posting this play on Twitter. Puck likes Purdy to go over 216 yards passing, but he's still comfortable at 219.5. And Understudy, under 46.5 as well. And on the Eagles at minus 2.5. For the Bengals and the Chiefs, Prolific, he's on the Bengals money line, under 47.5. Pirine, over 15.5 receiving yards. Puck, Chris Jones to record a sack. Pacheco over 47.5 yards rushing. And Understudy, Bengals to cover +1 and Bengals money line. That's a wrap. Thanks again for tuning in to the Build Your Bankroll podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at BYBR Podcast, at prolific_BYBR, at puck_BYBR, at understudy_BYBR. As we mentioned earlier, last week was the best week we've had as far as number of listeners. Listen, we really appreciate all of the feedback and the wonderful things we're hearing, the negative things too. It's all good. We're learning, we're growing. But I assure you, the more we have followers and the more we have awesome listeners with great feedback, better things to come. So we've been on a tear lately. We mentioned 10-3 last week. We hope to continue much of this as we go on. But for this week, have an awesome week. From Prolific, Puck, and myself, the Understudy, we're just checking out.